Merit and consequence in Cobb County tonight. The Ross Harris pretrial motions continue as his attorneys fight to exclude evidence seized after the death of Harris's young son. One of the key pieces in the investigation is evidence found on Harris's phone. But according to defense attorneys, police had no right to take Harris's phone during what they are saying was the worst moment of his life. Joining me right now to discuss today's hearing is defense attorney and former prosecutor Jill Polster. Is the defense right? Did law enforcement cross the boundaries here for him?
The defense argument is that Ross Harris was not a suspect when his phone was taken, and that because he was not a suspect, there was no legal basis for them to take his phone.
Is the issue the Fourth Amendment here? And if you see it as such, tell us what that's about. Explain the Fourth Amendment.
Yeah, the Fourth Amendment is huge, very broad, and of course it's known as our rights against search and seizure, but it applies to everything. It applies to what goes on in your house, your car, your phone, your computer, and it's about what law enforcement does and the actions they take. So what you're seeing in these motions is law enforcement kind of on trial here this week.
So there were 30 warrants that they were able to get about Ross Harris. How difficult is it to get a warrant? I mean, what is the process like to try and get that against an individual like this?
Generally, an officer will go, raise his right hand, give oral testimony as to probable cause, which is a very low standard that just means the person's probably guilty.
Right.
In this case, that is one of the defense arguments, that it was too easy to get the warrants.
This issue about character, that has been the crux of all of it. Does the net get so wide and so ambiguous that a jury might have a very difficult time ascertaining what the focus is, what he stands accused of, and what was his involvement in all of this?
Yes, I think that the state is casting a wide net here, and they are trying to bring in his character as it relates to the sexting allegations.
Do you think it's a mistake?
I think it may prove to be one in the long run. I think we've seen it in other high-profile trials,
like what? Give me an example.
Anthony,
okay.
Where they throw everything at this defendant, character, you know, all of the evidence in the case, and it backfired, ended up in an acquittal.
What do you think they should be doing as opposed? If you were in charge, what would you do?
If I was in charge of the DA's office? I'm not sure. I think this case may be a bit overcharged. I'd be looking for a compromise. This young man has a defensive accident, and I think a jury's going to hear it. And I think in a case that's this high profile, they'll do their job and look at the evidence very carefully to make sure the state's carried their burden.
Jill Polster, thank you very much. An Atlanta native, you went to Georgia State. That's where you got you went to law school.
Yes.
Thanks for being with us.
Thank you.
We appreciate it.
Interesting.